Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the meeting between the Indian Prime Minister and the Indonesian Prime Minister. Let's begin. Hello, I am a global nationalist. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today I'm going to be talking about Indian nationalism in current events. And the topic for today is the visit by the Indonesian president to India for the India's Republic Day. In on this day, he spoke with the Indian Prime Minister and along with other officials from both governments, and they came with certain agreements. I want to discuss these agreements and how I think they will affect the relationship going forward. Let's get started. This is a joint statement on the state visit of Prabowo Subianto, the President of the Republic of Indonesia, and uh, with Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi. This was on a state visit from 23rd to 26th January, 26th January being the Republic Day. And here, first about defense and security. The two countries had adopted the shared vision of India-Indonesia on maritime cooperation in the Indo-Pacific in 2018. The two leaders reaffirmed that India and Indonesia, as maritime neighbors and strategic partners, must continue to work to further deepen and broaden the defense cooperation to a robust one. Both leaders welcomed the ratification of the agreement concerning cooperation in the field of defense and expressed confidence that this would lead to further deepening of defense ties. They underscored the importance of regular engagements between defense ministers to effectively implement the DCA. In this regard, they agreed to hold a next defense ministers dialogue at an early date. I'm glad to read this that uh, there's been a vision for maritime cooperation between both countries since 2018, and that the two leaders have reaffirmed this. This is especially important because uh, this agreement was signed when Joko Widodo, the previous president of Indonesia, was in power. So this shows that the new president is continuing the policy. Both leaders welcomed ratification of the agreement concerning cooperation in the field of defense. This is another agreement I support, and this is declared into the an agreement in defense itself, and that I think India needs to deepen defense ties with Indonesia. It is one of the most uh, powerful states in the ASEAN group in the Southeast Asian region, and a good French relationship will be good for India. It'll be a good market for India's weapons, and India can also uh, get influence in Indonesia and help them protect themselves from China, where they have often have conflicts on the sea with the China's navy. On counterterrorism, both leaders called upon all countries to take concerted action against UN proscribed terrorist organizations and their affiliates. This is good for India because this, I think, is a reference to several Pakistani terrorist organizations who are UN proscribed. And this shows that Indonesia is going to agree with us on terrorism, especially since they too have a problem with terrorism. We also look forward to the renewal of the MOU on counterterrorism cooperation. Good. President Prabowo thanked Prime Minister Modi for offering specialized courses by National Security Guard of India, underscoring the value of capacity building and knowledge sharing in counterterrorism efforts. I hope that these courses by the NSG of India will be able to prepare Indonesia's forces against terrorist attacks. Economic engagement. Indonesia is one of India's largest trading partners in ASEAN. Both leaders expressed satisfaction that bilateral trade had reached a record high of $38.8 billion in April 22 to March 23. The leaders, this is resolved to agree to resolve outstanding tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade in coming meetings. of their officials. Both leaders agreed to expedite the conclusion of their ongoing review of the India ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement by 2025. Both leaders welcomed the signing of an MOU on local currency settlement systems between the Reserve Bank of India and Bank Indonesia in March 2024 and emphasized the importance of its expeditious implementation. They expressed confidence that the usage of local currency for bilateral transactions would further promote trade between India and Indonesia and deepen financial integration between two economies. I support this, that they're going to have currency uh, settlement in both countries for both their currencies. It'll help integrate their economies together and make them less dependent on the dollar. And yeah, I'm glad they're going to help work with ASEAN to form a goods agreement with them between India and ASEAN. Glad Indonesia is a member of ASEAN will work support India on that. The two leaders reaffirmed their desire to enhance the health sector cooperation and welcomed the signing of the MOU on health cooperation and the MOU in the field of traditional medicine quality assurance. They noted that the signing of these MOUs will provide further impetus to cooperation in the health sector. Energy security. Renewable energy goals of the respective countries and lauded the existing efforts being made on energy transition. Both sides have shown interest in joint exploration and mining related projects, particularly relating to critical minerals such as nickel, bauxite, silica, tin, etc., with a focus on downstream sectors. I'm supportive of their mining projects because this will give India access to minerals in Indonesia and Indonesia access to minerals in India, and will help both of them develop their mining technologies. As far as renewable energy goes, I'm not a big fan of that anymore. I don't think it's this climate change thing that the UN is driving is such a big deal that countries need to make energy transitions. But I do support the use of renewable energy. Climate change is real, it is having an effect, and renewable energy sources can reduce carbon emissions, but total energy transition is just not necessary, in my opinion. It's too costly to people. Both leaders welcomed uh, BPRL, I think that's Bharat Petroleum's continued interest to partner with Pertamina in the strategic Nunukan gas block project and agreed to support early execution of the project. I hope that this will allow India to exploit the gas projects in Indonesia in Nunukan uh, project, which will give India a steady supply of gas and will also help create business opportunities for Indonesia, give supply them with money, and from India, infrastructure and connectivity. The leaders recognize the vital role of connectivity in enhancing trade, tourism, and people to people exchanges between Indonesia and India. In this regard, they welcomed restoration of direct flights between two countries. Great. Seeing it as a significant step towards forward further strengthening bilateral ties and fostering closer engagement. Great. Good idea. The two leaders also recognized the growth in travel demand between the two countries and welcomed the signing of the MOU to expand the bilateral air services agreement. I support this that an MOU for air services has been signed. This will allow them to Indians and Indonesians to travel more frequently to each other's countries by air. Space cooperation. The leaders expressed satisfaction at the expanding cooperation in the space technology sector. India, ISRO recently launched, I think it's 100th rocket or mission, and last few days, and so that's shows how much progress India is making in the space sector. And I'm glad India is going to work with Indonesia to promote Indonesia's space technology too. Prime Minister Modi thanked President Prabowo for Indonesia's support to India's Gaganyaan mission. ASEAN. The two leaders agreed to strengthen efforts towards implementation of the ASEAN India Joint Statement on Cooperation on the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo Pacific for peace, stability, and prosperity in the region through existing ASEAN led mechanisms with trust and confidence based on shared democratic values, strong belief in sovereignty and territorial integrity, and a shared commitment to the rule of law and the principles of the UN Charter. India welcomed Indonesia joining the BRICS as a member country and expressed confidence that it will further strengthen the BRICS solidarity and regional cooperation. I'm glad that India and Indonesia will be cooperating these institutions, ASEAN and BRICS, well, India being a partner of ASEAN, not a member. The two leaders agree that I'm glad that Indonesia will support this statement between ASEAN and India, which is a statement on cooperation on the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific for peace, stability, and prosperity in the region, and based on democratic values, strong belief in sovereignty, and territorial integrity. This is a reference to being against China violating the territorial waters and economic zones of the countries in the South China Sea. And I'm glad that Indonesia is speaking in favor of this joint statement because it shows that and that India is supporting them. I think India should support Indonesia against China's claims. It's in India's interest to do so. But India shouldn't become sort of like an ally of Indonesia and God forbid, get into a shooting war with China to protect Indonesia. I think only diplomatic support should be given. And yeah, Indonesia becoming a BRICS country is good. It'll prevent Indonesia from being too reliant on the West, but can give them access to Eastern, Southern countries, South countries in the uh, that developing world. And India, as a founding member of BRICS, can work with Indonesia there. It'll prevent BRICS from being too China dependent. What this shows is that Indonesia is willing to make some changes for its foreign policy and that to be closer to India, which it already is, but it's going to be increase its closeness, which will give India more influence in the country and the region at large. And if Indonesia can become a buyer of Indian military goods, it will help India's defense industry and it will help strengthen Indonesia's own armed forces to protect it from China and any other country that wants to violate its territory. And um, a better economic relationship will also be good. It'll give both countries, the companies from both companies, countries, um, access to each other's markets, increase trade, which will strengthen their economies. And the currency swap is a great idea, and not swap settlement agreement is a great idea. And the others like Indonesia joining BRICS, so India's support for Indonesia and ASEAN are also great. So I think this was a good meeting, and I'm glad it occurred. I just hope that both countries can continue the progress made on their relations from this visit. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to see other videos about Indian nationalism and current events, click here. If you want to see my previous video, click here. If you want to see the source I used for this video, click the links in the description below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.